Be prepared. Something has cracked open, not in your world, but in his. And while you've learned how to carry the silence, he's just now waking up to the noise of everything he's buried. Have you felt it? The sudden emotional waves, the dreams that feel like memories, that strange, aching sense of something's about to happen. It's not your imagination. It's remorse, and it's radiating from his field into yours. This isn't the kind of guilt that fades. It's the kind that transforms, the kind that makes a man remember what he said, what he didn't say, what he ran from, and most importantly, who he left behind. But here's the part no one tells you. This is the most fragile moment of the twin flame journey. One wrong reaction, one step back into old energy, and the window closes. So if you've been feeling his regret without understanding why, if your soul is restless and your heart can't explain it, that's because his soul is knocking. And now, it's your choice. Do you open the door or repeat the cycle? Because this week, something rare is happening. He's feeling it all. And what you do next changes everything. There's something different in the air. And deep down, you felt it. You didn't imagine that sudden weight on your chest. You didn't make up the quiet sadness that appeared for no reason. You didn't choose to dream about him again. It just happened. And now you're wondering, why am I thinking about him so much again? Why do I feel like I'm grieving something I've already let go of? Why does it feel like part of me is whispering, he's changing? The answer is simple, but sacred. His energy has shifted, and your soul, deeply connected to his, felt it first. The divine masculine is awakening, not just mentally, but emotionally. And when that begins, you feel it before he even knows how to admit it. You've spent months, maybe years, detaching from his chaos, setting boundaries, choosing your healing. You thought you were done, and in many ways, you are. But twin flame connection doesn't disappear when wounds heal. It becomes more refined. You no longer carry the weight of the past, but you still feel the movement of the present. And right now, he's hurting. He's reflecting. And for the first time, he's regretting. He regrets what he didn't say. He regrets walking away from a love that was more real than anything he's known. He regrets choosing comfort over truth, ego over soul. And because his soul is finally cracking open, his pain, the emotional wave he never learned to express, is starting to rise. But he doesn't know what to do with it yet. So where does that energy go? To the one person who's always known how to hold space for the truth, you. You might not be talking. You might have gone months, even years without contact. But energy doesn't obey time or distance. And when his remorse begins to stir, it travels through the very thread that still ties you together. That's why you suddenly feel emotional for no reason. That's why you can't explain why you're dreaming about him again. That's why part of your heart is opening, and part of it is aching, because it's not your heartbreak. It's his. And now the question becomes, what do you do with it? You don't suppress it. That would only amplify the signal. You don't attach to it. That would pull you backward. You witness it. You breathe through it. You let it pass through like wind, knowing it's not here to stay, only to be released. This is one of the sacred responsibilities of the awakened feminine. To feel what the masculine hasn't learned to process. To transmute pain into awareness. Not to fix him. Not to chase, but to stay steady in the knowing. He is waking up. You may feel like crying for no reason. You may feel sudden heat, tightness in your chest, waves of nostalgia, or even body sensations that don't belong to you. It's not just your nervous system. It's a psychic signal. It's him, from wherever he is, finally facing his truth and unknowingly reaching for you. And your job? To stay grounded. You are not who you were when this journey began. You don't need to rescue him. You don't need to wait for him. But you can hold space silently without abandoning yourself. This is what sacred feminine energy does. It witnesses, it receives, it knows, even before the masculine does. So when you feel the pull again, when the memories flood your heart, when the ache arrives out of nowhere, don't run from it. It's not a sign that you're going backward. It's a sign that he's finally coming forward. And the first person he's reaching for, even if only in energy, is you. Because your soul has always been the safe place. And now that he's starting to remember that, you'll feel him long before he finds the words. And when the time is right, he will speak. But for now, you already feel the shift. And that means everything is about to change. There's a moment in every twin flame journey when the silence stops feeling like distance and starts feeling like a message. Not a rejection, not abandonment, but a message written in energy, carried by guilt and delivered through stillness. And if you've been feeling a quiet heaviness in your chest lately, one that doesn't belong to you, if you've caught yourself staring off, sensing a presence that isn't there, or if you've woken up with an ache in your heart that you can't explain, then you're hearing it. The soul's language, and the message it's delivering is this. He feels guilty, but not just guilty for leaving, not just for the silence, not just for the words I said. He feels guilty because now he knows what he walked away from. He remembers the look in your eyes when you saw through him and still stayed. He remembers the softness in your voice when you asked for truth and he gave you confusion. He remembers the love you gave freely while he guarded his heart like a secret too dangerous to speak aloud. And that memory doesn't fade, not when the soul is involved, not when it was real. That's why silence now is not just absence, it's penance. Because he doesn't know how to say, I'm sorry. Not in a way that would be worthy of the pain you felt. So he stays quiet, not to hurt you, but because he's hurting. Because he doesn't know if he even deserves your energy anymore. And the irony? You might feel like he's forgotten, but it's his remembering that's weighing you down. You're feeling the pull, the ache, the strange sadness, not because you're clinging to the past, but because he is finally facing it. And when his soul begins to awaken, it sends signals through the very thread that connects yours. This is the part of the journey they don't talk about. The part where his silence screams. Where guilt becomes a vibration you can feel in your body, even from miles away. And in that space, the real test appears. Will you mistake his silence for rejection again? Will you chase it, trying to fix what only he can heal? Or will you recognize it for what it truly is, the beginning of his inner reckoning? You don't need to do anything. You don't need to reach out. You don't even need to open that door again. But you do need to understand the language. Because when the soul is speaking, it bypasses logic, time, and distance. It speaks through feeling, through dreams, through sudden flashes of memory, through the tension in your shoulders and the weight in your stomach, through the moments you feel a tear rise, and you have no idea why. That's not weakness, that's telepathy. That's the soul calling out from within its cage, hoping you still hear it. And you do. Of course you do. Because you were never the one who forgot. You were the one who knew. Even when he didn't. Now it's his turn to remember, to feel the weight of what he lost, to feel the echoes of the love you offered so freely, and what he couldn't yet receive. This isn't the end. This is the sacred pause before transformation, where guilt burns away pride, where silence creates space for truth, where the soul starts whispering the words the mouth couldn't speak. So if your heart feels heavy, don't carry it alone. It was never yours to begin with. You're just fluent in a language most have forgotten, the language of the soul. And right now, his soul is finally speaking, even if he can't yet. There's a quiet haunting that begins when the soul starts to awaken. Not in bright flashes or dramatic realizations, but in slow, almost unbearable moments of memory. Moments that were once buried so deep he thought they were gone for good. But they weren't. And now, one by one, they're returning. That day you smiled at him when he had nothing to offer. The way you held your silence when he pushed you away. The exact sound of your laugh when he let his guard down. The feeling he had in his chest when you looked at him like you already knew who he was, even before he did. At the time, he didn't know what to do with that level of recognition, so he shut it out. He distracted himself. He buried it under ego, under denial, under false identities, and half-built dreams that were easier to chase than the truth. But truth doesn't die just because you ignore it. And now, when he's alone, when the noise fades, when he lays in bed at night, that's when you return. Not as a fantasy, not as a ghost, but as a mirror he can no longer look away from. What he's remembering isn't just moments. He's remembering how seen he felt, how safe it was to be misunderstood by everyone except you, how terrified he was that if you saw more of him, you'd eventually leave, like everyone else did, and how, ironically, his own fear made that nightmare real. Now, those memories come without warning. You show up in his dreams. You pass through his mind during quiet drives. He hears a song and feels it in his gut before his brain can even name the connection. And it's not just about nostalgia. It's a spiritual recall. Because the twin flame connection doesn't leave loose threads. It pulls everything back to the surface when the time is right. And for him, that time has come. You may have already felt it. The strange surge of emotion that wasn't yours. The magnetic energy returning, even when there's no contact. The unexplainable knowing that he's thinking about you, even if he doesn't know why yet. This is the memory field reactivating. And for the divine masculine, it's incredibly destabilizing. Because these aren't memories he wants. These are memories he needs. They're not here to make him miss you, they're here to make him face himself. And that's why he feels raw, restless, irritable, even distant. He's being pulled through an inner timeline of every choice, every wall, every mask. And now he sees as what you saw. He sees what you were trying to reflect, not to hurt him, but to wake him. Do you remember the moment you stopped waiting? When you let go, not out of anger, but out of sacred exhaustion? That's the moment he's now walking into. He's remembering what he could have had, what he wasn't ready for, and what he can't forget, no matter how hard he tries. Because some love isn't made to fade, it's made to return once both souls are ready. So what should you do now? You don't chase, you don't overthink, you hold your light. Because right now, he's in the void, the in-between space where the past haunts and the future isn't clear. He's not reaching out because he's not sure who he is without the masks. But he's remembering, and that's everything. Because once the soul remembers, it can't unknow. And when he's finally ready to face you again, it won't be as the man who left. It'll be as the man who finally saw the truth and couldn't forget it. There's a moment in every twin flame journey where your ego wants to scream, to reach out, to fix it. But your soul whispers something entirely different. It says, pause. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is. You feel his pull again. The silence has shifted. You sense his energy reaching toward you, but not yet arriving. And in that fragile, confusing space, your old self wants to act, to text, to question, to demand clarity. But don't. This isn't the moment to react. It's the moment to anchor. Right now, he's in his sacred storm. He's revisiting choices he made in fear. He's being asked to face a truth that once terrified him, that he pushed away the one soul who saw the real him and loved him anyway. You don't need to remind him of that. His soul is doing that for you. If you reach out now, from fear, from urgency, from lack, you'll interrupt a process that was designed to change him. Because what he's feeling now is not rejection. It's the weight of his own choices finally catching up. It's the mirror of your stillness, showing him what his chaos created. Have you ever noticed how silence can sometimes say more than any words could? How stillness can be more confronting than confrontation? That's the power you're holding now. Not in punishment, but in presence. The Divine Feminine's greatest strength in this part of the journey is non-reaction. Not because she's cold, but because she's wise enough to know love doesn't beg. It reflects, it holds, it waits without waiting. Right now, your stillness is sacred. It's what gives him space to feel the consequences of his avoidance. It's what allows his remorse to grow into responsibility. It's what separates the impulse of guilt from the action of transformation. So what do you do instead? You return to yourself. You sit with your own waves of emotion, not to indulge them, but to integrate them. You let go of the urge to be understood, and instead deepen your understanding of yourself. You stop writing stories in your mind about what he's thinking, and focus on what you are feeling. Have you forgotten how magnetic you are when you're in your center? How irresistible your energy becomes when you're not leaking it into worry, fear, or fantasy? That's the version of you he's being called back to. Not the one who reacts, the one who radiates. This is your test too. Because just like he's being asked to remember, you're being asked to trust. To trust that what is real doesn't need chasing. To trust that the connection doesn't depend on your effort, but on your alignment. To trust that the version of him you're waiting for cannot emerge until the version of you stops grasping for the past. So breathe. Let the silence stretch. Let your energy speak louder than your words ever could. Let your peace become the very thing he cannot forget. And if you feel the ache, good. That ache is proof you're shedding your need to control this story. You're stepping into your power, and that power, it doesn't chase. It simply becomes the truth that no one can ignore. Not even him. Especially not him. Right now, there is a reset occurring, not just between you and him, but within the very soul pattern that brought you together in the first place. It's the moment where the divine feminine is no longer just the mirror. She becomes the magnet. Not because she tries to pull him in, but because she pulls herself back into wholeness. You've already played every version of yourself in this connection. The nurturer, the healer, the forgiver, the one who waited, who explained, who gave more than she had. But now, the role has shifted, and with it, so has your power. This isn't about becoming harder. It's about becoming clearer. Right now, the energy of the universe is reorganizing every relationship, but especially twin flame bonds based on truth, not illusion. And the truth is, he can only meet you where you've met yourself. So the question becomes, where are you still abandoning yourself while waiting for him to return? Because here's the sacred paradox. The more you try to reset this connection for the two of you, the further you drift from your path. But the moment you reset yourself, your standards, your energy, your focus, the entire connection shifts with you. This is the divine feminine's role in the reset. She doesn't rebuild the bridge. She becomes the land he wants to cross to reach. She doesn't send out signals of lack, fear, or longing. She emits a frequency of calm power. And in that frequency, the masculine remembers who he is too. Have you noticed this? That when you stop reaching, he starts noticing. When you stop trying to hold the connection together, he starts feeling what it's like to be without it. That's not manipulation, that's energetic law. When you realign with your own center, unapologetically, courageously, you break the loop of codependency. You no longer orbit his chaos. You become the sun in your own sky. And guess what? That's the only thing powerful enough to awaken his remembrance. You were never supposed to carry him across the threshold. You were meant to cross your own and let that crossing inspire his. Right now, the reset looks like boundaries. It looks like choosing silence over justification. It looks like walking away from patterns you used to chase, not in anger, but in deep love for yourself. This doesn't mean the connection is over. It means the old version of it is. And unless that version dies, the new one can't be born. So what does the divine feminine do? She lets go, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for what this journey has taught her. She stops shrinking herself to maintain the illusion of closeness. She stops waiting for a sign and becomes one. She stops trying to fix him and finally chooses to heal herself. This is where your true power lives. Because when the divine feminine resets, not just emotionally but energetically, the entire connection rebalances. He starts to feel the absence of your energy in a way that no words ever could. Not because you disappeared, but because you returned to yourself. And that return, that's what the divine masculine feels, even in silence. It's what stirs his soul. It's what breaks the loop of fear and avoidance. He can no longer access the version of you who tolerated breadcrumbs. She's gone. In her place is a woman who knows she is sacred, a woman who doesn't need to prove her worth through suffering, a woman who understands that the only way to truly be chosen is to choose herself first. So if this week feels like a breaking point, let it break the cycles that never served your soul. Let it break the illusions of control. Let it break your habit of overgiving. Because what's being rebuilt is so much stronger, and your role in this reset is simple. Become the version of you who no longer waits, because she already is what he's trying to remember. There's a reason you've been feeling all of this so deeply. The tension, the silence, the sudden emotional waves that crash in without explanation. It's not because you're overthinking. It's not because you're too sensitive. It's because the energetic opening between you and your divine counterpart is real, and it's happening right now. You may not see anything physically change yet. He may still be silent, he may still be distant, but inside him and inside you, something irreversible has already shifted. The connection has entered a new frequency. A new timeline is being offered. But here's the truth no one tells you. You can miss it. Not because you're unworthy, not because the bond isn't real, but because you've been trained to look away from your power just when it's activating. This final message is not a warning. It's a reminder that your job isn't to fix the connection. It's to hold the alignment inside yourself long enough for the universe to do the rest. Can you feel the new energy trying to land inside you? It shows up as an urge to rest, as a knowing that the old way doesn't work anymore, as a resistance to chasing, explaining, over-functioning. You're not becoming weaker, you're becoming sovereign. Right now, your masculine feels that shift. Even if he doesn't understand it consciously, his energy body does. He feels your absence in the way you used to overgive. He feels your presence in the way you now say less, but mean more. You've stepped into the sacred void, the space between endings and beginnings. And this is where timelines crystallize. This is where you either slip back into old patterns or hold your new vibration long enough for the next version of the connection to take form. So ask yourself, can you stay in your center even when nothing is certain? Can you resist reaching for him and reach for yourself instead? Because if you can, you'll notice something strange. The signs will get louder. The synchronicities will accelerate. His name will show up. His energy will poke at your heart. You'll feel his confusion, his longing, his remorse, all without words. Why? Because you're no longer feeding the loop. You've stepped out of the echo chamber. And that silence, that stillness, it's what makes space for divine intervention. There is no formula for reunion, but there is a frequency that creates it. And that frequency is not found in waiting. It's found in remembering. Remembering who you were before the pain, before the chase, before the story took over the soul bond. This is the opening. It's not in him reaching out, it's in you reaching in. So whatever happens next, stay anchored in your own light. Let your peace become your prayer. Let your presence become the portal, because he feels it. And if this connection is meant to ascend and you stay aligned, nothing can stop the divine timing from unfolding. Not fear, not silence, not delay. The door is open. Your soul knows what to do. Now, let it begin.